Welcome ladies and gentlemen to my favourite medium tank of all time at tier 10, and the one that I absolutely love playing, not because of the fact that it is maybe the best medium tank that you can get, and certainly it doesn't have the autoloader that I love on the TVP T5051, which is a close second in terms of how I like playing. This one is a single shot, so you only get the opportunity to fire once every about 6 seconds roughly when you've got it fully kitted out, and we are running it with advanced loader, or at least all of the bonuses that we can for loading time except from ventilation, and of course with a fully trained crew of 9 perks, running it with as much camo perks as we can go with, alongside using this tank with the bonuses to view range that we can get as well, so we can not only be able to deal damage but get some assistance, at least hopefully, when we're playing this tank. So I'll give you a bit of an introduction as to the main armament of this vehicle. It is, of course, a 390 alpha damage shot gun that has the possibility of loading HESH rounds, which is why I like this tank so much. Not because they deal an inordinate amount of damage. If you don't pen, they only deal about 150 or something like that to a lot of the opponents you'll be fighting, but because they deal 480 when you do pen. They have 210 millimeters of penetration to be able to deal with a lot of the targets that you're facing, and often 210 pen is enough to pen a lot of vehicles with this tank. And that just boosts up the DPM for when you do find those opportunities. And you've got APCR as the standard rounds, which are very good for leading shots and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe not when you completely derp it into the side of a building, however, but in general, very, very nice tank indeed. It also gets this very low profile tank, which if you were to consider it against something like the Centurion Action X, which is the other British tier 10 tank that you can pick up in the game, it is very, very much a smaller target to actually hit, and the armor works a hell of a lot better on this tank than it does on the Centurion Action X. It's not as boxy, it is stronger, and its upper plate is very, very bouncy, and so often you can bounce quite a few rounds in this thing, which is how you've seen me pick up 1600 block damage. But you shouldn't rely on the tank's armor to work in games like this, and so yeah, you do have to kind of think as well as to how you can escape situations, as well as how you can maneuver to hopefully have the best result that you can. Now, I know that there's someone shooting me over on the left hand side, and it appears like it may be an E50, but we don't really know, so we're just kind of waiting to see what it is. And there you go, the E50 pops up. We don't have a shot on him, very, very slim one. He, of course, backs up behind the hill area that's over there, and so we're just kind of playing the mid-ridge. Now, this game on the map is not too bad because of the fact that eventually we're going to be able to at least push forward, and we've really just got to finish off the last couple of tanks that are over here, and we've got some APCR loaded. We can't reliably pen the Object 268 here, except with the standard rounds, which have 268 pen, so this tank is probably not the best for beginner players, but I kind of want to show it for those of you that maybe are more experienced, and for those of you who are kind of wondering what sort of tank should I get if I'm trying to look into learning the game a little bit more. Not to say beginners won't have fun in this tank, it's still a really fun tank, and I definitely recommend going up this line as kind of a medium tank player, because you will learn a lot from becoming an FV4202 player, as well as from going towards the Action X as well. And of course you get 2 tanks at the end of it, which is really good. And so you learn the advantages of HESH rounds, as well as being able to learn how to use armor, and also how not to use armor when you play these medium tanks. They're a good transitional tank between playing a heavy and playing a medium tank. And in order of kind of priority, when I do think about like the tanks that I use, when I started moving from heavy tanks, which I typically recommend for beginners because they just are a little bit easier to play, was going from like something like, you know, maybe you went for an E100 to begin with, then you go for a T110E5 because that's a nice transitional tank. It gets the armor as well as having good gun statistics, so kind of gets you in line with those medium tanks. And then of course moving to something like the FV4202 is a good option for kind of moving into a fully fledged medium tank, and of course retaining a little bit of armor here and there, although not the most amazing one. But there you go, so far 3,000 damage, not too bad, and these are the sort of damages you'll be seeing with the FV4202. Often players can get up to about this sort of mark relatively easily if you've got a bit of experience. Obviously if you're newer, you know, you will learn quite a bit from just playing the tank and learning how you can kind of effectively get out more damage over time. And here you go, finishing off the 268 there, or at least helping off finish the 268, allowing us to now start pushing to get a little bit more damage. And in these late stages of the game, you're probably thinking, how can I get more damage? Well, it's all down to getting behind vehicles with those Hesh rounds. And even if you don't get behind those Hesh rounds and you end up coming around the side of vehicles, you can still pen them with it. And here you go. We are going to fire the first standard round, but we swap to Hesh knowing that the Ruthless is kind of going to be side on, or at least frontally. And here you go, one into the back end of the Ruthless, but unfortunately it hits the side armor. We were aiming high onto the side so we could try and get that hull armor. He's doing a bit of a weird movement, and so we wait until we can actually get the lower plate. And here you go again, hopefully we can get it again. There you go, we do, lovely as you like, and we're up to 5,500 damage very quickly after dealing our first shot of damage to this guy. So Ruthless is of course looking this way. I don't want to take a hit if I don't need to, and we could be penned by HE or Hesh or whatever it is that he may be firing. Now I'm trying to move towards this guy, and of course the chieftain just doesn't want to do it, and yeah, it is super annoying when people do that. If someone crashes into you or you're up against someone, please try and drive in the opposite direction to where you're actually going, otherwise you both get slowed down, and obviously yeah, that's what happened there. It's something that a lot of players just don't want to do for some reason, and often they'll just kind of keep dragging along super slow as you go into them. But here we go, a Hesh round that doesn't pen, which can be the case, but it doesn't matter anyway because we've got enough hit points to trade at the end, having not really taken any damage all game. And there you go, 5,740 damage with 3 enemies taken out, and a lot of block damage for a medium tank as well. But completely overshadowed by the Jagdtiger, who managed to pick up 8.3 thousand damage in that game. So a really big congratulations to Drago Slayer, one who got more XP even on a loss than the entirety of our team. So a very, very good play by him in that game, albeit on the other flank to us. So we didn't really get to see him until the end. And so yeah, it would have been a nice matchup to have us both up against each other. But there you go, not a bad game at all. And one of the reasons why I enjoy playing this tank, and it is very, very consistent at dealing a ton of damage like this one. But as I say, it is very consistent. So we've got another gameplay here for you to have a look at in today's video, and hopefully this is a short but sweet guide on the FV4202, since I just really enjoy playing tanks like this. It is kind of gives you a little bit of an option to outplay, outperform, retrack opponents because of the fast reloads. And obviously when you've got a faster reload in a tank like this, you can punish people that maybe overcommit around the corner. You can track them, double track them so they're locked in place, and then you can often side scrape out, or you can try and avoid their shots whilst you then hit them multiple times for every time they hit you. It just feels amazing to play, and these are just one of the many reasons that I think medium tanks are a great way to play in World of Tanks, as well as light tanks as well. They can be super fun when it goes alright, but for a lot of players, medium tanks can be quite difficult. Light tanks can be quite difficult compared to medium tanks, so you might want to just consider your options. And obviously I think light tanks are a good way to understand spotting mechanics, especially when you're first beginning to think about playing mediums, like testing out the waters in low tier light tanks. Making sure that you've got camo builds and set up on them can be useful for when you do play medium tanks like this one, because then you understand, like, am I going to get spotted here if I fire? Am I likely to remain undetected if I stay in a position? That sort of stuff. And it can be really nice to be able to get 3 shots of damage on a lot of opponents. Now, in this game, not done any damage so far, but don't worry, because there is plenty of opportunities to do it when you're playing in a tank that reloads as quick as this one and has the accuracy that the FV4202 has. So this is another benefit of playing mediums, is the accuracy feels rather nice. But we're not going to poke a 705A, and we certainly don't want to get hit by the enemy artillery, who looked like he was actually aiming over here. And there you go, a little lucky auto aim there that you can do in a tank like this. Obviously, as I always say, unless you are basically not able to fully aim, or you think that the opponent is just going to pull back behind cover before you can fully aim, then you should always try and fully aim. Auto aiming should be kind of your last resort, or something that you do when you're just trying to get out of there. Like you see here, we had time to actually aim at that guy, so there's no point auto aiming him, as many people probably would have done, and that's the reason why they lose out on 300, 400, up to thousands of damage in games, just because maybe they were a little bit lazy, or they didn't realise that, you know, they could have penned if they just spent half a second aiming in and tracking out where the opponents are going to be. So, not a great game in terms of how much damage we've done so far, but hopefully we're going to be able to kind of get this 5A out. He's firing HE for some unbeknownst reason, but don't worry, because of our reload we can lock it in place. Maybe we can get some assistance damage, and we can kind of just poke this guy constantly, re-tracking in there, and now he's locked out in the open. But we do have some people behind us, so we don't want to kind of you know, spend too long trying to take the 705A out in case they come from behind, so we want to get rid of him as quickly as possible, and hopefully we're going to be able to do that. Just trying to bait him into firing here. Unfortunately not able to do that, so let's get rid of one of the guys from behind hopefully, and there you go, nice one into the side of the WZ. 111. He's out of the game, and the potential for him to deal, you know, 400 and something damage, 490 damage, or it might even be 540 if I remember. But of course, yeah, we get him out of the game, which is nice, and avoids that damage potentially. And now we can push forward to the enemy base, and there's a Scourge out in the open, so 3 damage ahoy. The little Scourge is of course a pretty decent tank when you can use it properly, but being out in the open, obviously you can't hide any of your tank. And yeah, the artillery actually has like half of a brain cell, so he's able to hit us blind. So yep, that is not fun, and hopefully he doesn't pen us with the next one, because we are a flat British tank with a huge engine deck. So yeah, that could be quite painful. But there is a 752 and a Ferdinand, and given that the 752s, or the 257 even, we can now push down and hopefully get rid of this Ferdinand. We have Hesh loaded, and we do manage to pen him inside, although an AP round would have been absolutely fine, or an APCR as it actually is. And then we fire on the move at the Dragon, hit him, don't pen, obviously, because why would you want to do that? But hopefully we'll pen him with this next one. Probably should be firing AP here, given how many rounds we've bounced off of him. And then one into the cupola of the AT-15. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people around here. He's penning us basically every shot. And then don't know where that shell went, completely whiffed. But it's okay, because we could hopefully finish this guy off with a couple more shots, and he seems to be not realising where to pen us, even after penning us multiple times. And there you go, to nearly 5,000 damage in a very easy kind of fashion, in terms of how it felt to actually get the damage. So you can kind of understand how this tank plays in terms of these two gameplays. And yeah, the amount of times where you can get huge amounts of damage is quite often, and that's primarily because you can load the Hesh rounds to get more damage, and it really does make a difference. And this tank actually has the highest kind of damage that I've ever dealt combined in the game. I think I managed to pick up nearly 15,000 combined damage in a game, getting like 9,000 actual damage and 5,000 spotting or something like that. So yeah, a really, really amazing game. But there you go, the FV4202. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I hope you join me back in the next one. Make sure to like the video if you did, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.